everybody, this is Blue. Well, I wanted to start talking more and more about magic, the spell work. I talk about magical concepts on how we can perform spells and such, but not much on the spells themselves. And I'm going to try to change that up quite a bit now on my channel. So, what is magic? Magic is the use of spiritual energy to cause subtle change in the world around us, to meet a desired goal. Okay? So, we visualize something in our heads, and then we try to pool our energies, focus it, shape it, and release it in the hopes that it will cause the change needed to make our world a better place. Okay. But we still have to work to achieve this. I'm going to talk about love spells on this. You have to work to make somebody fall in love with you. You cannot just depend upon a love spell, because if you have somebody fall in love with you just because you did a love spell on them, it's not a love spell, it's an imprisonment spell. You have overcome that person's self thought, his or her control over their emotions, and you had them forcibly surrender to you. And so that goes against a lot of magic rules out there. I believe that you still have to work to achieve your goals. So you want a better job, great. You do a spell to help you find a better job, but you still have to keep looking. You still have to go to Indeed or Job Monster or wherever it is and looking. And hopefully the two of those, you looking and the spell that you cast out, work together, and boom, you have a better job. Okay. Now, how to cast a tarot card can be many different things. I mean, you can do the full ceremonial magic, casting the circle, walking around it 3 times, going in, placing the card on your altar, calling forth the gods, goddesses, and casting out that energy. I also believe that you should be able to pull this desired card out of your tarot deck, place it on your altar, light a candle, meditate on it a little bit, think about it, think what you want, and send out that energy to achieve your goal. You could possibly just grab that card that you're wanting to use and do a chant. That will work. Okay? Whatever you believe that will work, try it. Okay. Now, this is why I believe in only having one tarot deck. There are many people out there that have multiple decks. But if you're going to do tarot magic like I am suggesting here, I think you should have only one deck, because you need to be able to easily in your mind visualize that card. So you see, for me, I use the Druidcraft deck. I know, big surprise, huh? And I am able to visualize these cards so much because they're the only ones I work with. I love the imagery. I love the full color of it. And so the Druidcraft deck is my deck. Okay. Now, this concept that I'm talking about is something that I used to play many years ago. I used to do role playing, and there was a profession called the tarot mage. Now, the tarot mage was somebody, he made his own deck, and then he used the cards to cast spells. So if a situation came around, he could pull out a card, and then he, with his hand extended with the card open and out, he can cast a spell through it. The card becomes inspiration, visualization, and the focus of his energies, and then he casts them out to get the desired result. And that's kind of why I've always loved that little profession and all that, because it was so vivid. Now, the tarot deck does tell a story. You can take the four symbols, your wands, pentacles, swords, cups, and those can represent the four seasons on earth. And so there is a story to tell here. And so each card represents a concept, because there's numerology involved as well. And so a certain card, like the Two of Swords, is one of my favorite cards. It talks about dilemma, choice, and in some ways procrastination, because it's at the crossroads. You are having to decide, do I go right or do I go left? The road less chosen for all you Frost fans out there. And so on this card, I would cast this upon myself when I have a major decision to be made, because it will help me make that decision, and then I'm not waiting, do I do it, do I don't do it for 2 months, and then end up screwing myself over. So that's the beauty of this, because a card, many of the cards also have two meanings, and it's also about your interpretation. So how you visualize a card can determine its value to you and how you use it in your magic. Now, because each card is unique and you can do so much with it, I would highly suggest creating a section in your grimoire just for this. Because let's see if I remember, it's either 72 or 78 cards in a tarot deck. That means you could have 72 or 78 pages just to tell what this card can do. You might write an incantation based upon its result, because some people do the 3 stanzas repeated 3 times and all. Well, you can write your stanza down there with a picture of the card, and all that, so that when the need comes, you can easily go to that page, get the card, and you can do your incantation, such as so forth. And then you can also write down the results of that incantation. So I think this is very, very important. Now, there is something that some people do and some people don't when reading a tarot card, and that is the card upright or inverted? Now, if you come up to some people, if you come up to an inverted card when you're doing your spread, that means that the results or meaning of the card are inverted as well. So you remember I was saying, talk about the Two of Hearts, where it's dilemma and choice. Well, an inverted Two of Hearts might mean that your choice is gone. You have to face a requirement. You no longer get to choose between left and right. You can only go right. So that's something that you should also consider when you are doing something like this. That would also mean that if you are doing kind of like what the tarot mage did, when you hold your card during your ritual, during your spell session, make sure that you're holding it the right way and you're visualizing it in your mind the right way. Thus, some cards can actually be like a curse to somebody, because like the Five of Pentacles is about loss and suffering. The Eight of Swords is about restriction and self-imprisonment. So you could actually use these cards in kind of an offensive manner, defensive manner, and cast these out upon people that could be causing you harm or difficulties in life. And so if somebody is bothering you, if you use the Eight of Swords, which is self-imprisonment, If you look at the card, there are swords surrounding this person that's bound. Um, then they might not be able to move against you, and thus protecting yourself, defending yourself. Okay. Now, the cards, you can't always go by what the card says, because death is not about death. Death is clearing away the old. You're getting ready for a transformation. Before you can be something new, you have to get rid of the old. Um, some of the cards that I would use, you got your many decks call it Judgment, and Druid Tarot, in Druidcraft, they call it Rebirth. And this is talking about renewal and new direction. You got the Hermit, which is about guidance, retreat, caution, meditation, which I think is needs to be used a lot more. The Fool. Now, it's the Fool that takes this journey in the tarot deck story. And it's talking about when he starts out, he is innocent. There is potential. There is optimism. The journey of discovery. Think about this. When you started your path, you were the fool. You had potential, you had innocence, and so it represented you. So for those of you that are new to this craft, your patron card should be the Fool, because it is starting out, it is learning, it is taking and making potential. Another favorite card of mine is Strength, and that's pretty much self-evident there. Sometimes people need help, and thus you could take the Strength card and you can do a spell work, a ritual, and try to give somebody strength. Somebody might be going through a difficult time. Okay. The Lord, or the Emperor card in other decks, is talking about structure, protection, leadership, accomplishment. The Empress, or Lady, is Mother Nature, abundance, justice, doing the right thing, it's decision, balance, choice. The Tower is about a revelation, destruction, then creation, liberation, and awakening. So the Tower, for all of its scary pit imagery and all that, could be a great thing, because it might mean that you are at a crossroad right now and you're having a hard time deciding how do you move forward. And then there's the Tower, revelation. You have this major choice, you're moving forward, and the world has opened up to you. It is a good thing. The Ten of Swords is your darkest moment, and how do you respond to it? Okay, in my book that I read about the Druidcraft, it's talking about how the Ten of Swords equals Yule, the winter solstice. It is the darkest time. Light is so rare because the sun is so far away or tilted at the wrong angle. And so, we have more night and all that. How do you respond? This is a good card in ways, because it is talking about you've reached your darkest moment and now you move forth and you grow. Another nice card is the Lover's card. And, you've got your love spells, which we all laugh at, well, most of us laugh at. You could take a love spell, the Lover's card, and for people that are getting married, you can do this type of card and to wish them love, success. Isn't that a great thing? That is a very positive thing. That is what the Lover's card could represent for a family. Because sometimes the most important thing is love. Now, and these cards can be used in cooperation of each other's. The example that I would like to make is breaking the habit. Let's say yourself or a friend of yours is an avid smoker. Okay. So they need to break the habit. They just discovered that they need to stop for some reason. Maybe they got a new baby in the family and they don't want to smoke around the baby. Whatever the case may be. So you would need the first spell. It would be the death card. Okay, why? Because it's clearing away the old. The old is this habit. So you want to break that habit. All right, then a couple weeks later, you will be casting the strength card because breaking that habit is very difficult and hard for people. And so if you can give them the strength, inspiration to keep going, that will help them a great deal. Then 2 weeks later, you can do rebirth because rebirth is about renewal and new direction. And so this person has, with these three cards, has broken the smoking habit, fought going back, and then has liberated themselves and living a new life. And that is the most wonderful thing about this tarot card magic that I am working on. Now, I said this was also for oracle decks, and I mean it, because an oracle card is strictly also a visualization of a concept. And so what I see a lot of are oracle animal decks. Now, animal totems, or your spirit animals, we, thanks to a lot of different cultures, have applied traits to certain animals, okay? And so we could also take an oracle deck, like I'm mentioning magical animals, and we can cast them upon people because sometimes we need to be cunning like a fox. We need to soar high like an eagle to get perspective. Just think about all the different types of animals out there. And we could then help ourselves and the people around us. I wanted to give a few more examples on how to use the cards. Now, Justice card. You know, Unfortunately, with Donald Trump being president, we have had a lot of people that have talked about hexing him and binding him, to a lot of dismay in the pagan witch communities. But why not use the Justice card with the sole purpose of what he has done wrong? He has to face it to bring justice. So for those of you who do not believe Trump did anything wrong, nothing will happen, because if he didn't do anything wrong, justice will ignore him. But for those that believe that Trump has done something wrong, they can use the Justice card and cast it out, and so that Trump faces justice. Again, if he did nothing wrong, nothing happens. Okay? Now, the Lord card, or Emperor card. Maybe you know somebody that is going through a hard time and has to provide leadership. Maybe the person got a promotion at work and such. So you could take the Lord/Emperor card and cast this out on him or her, so that they can get the structure that they need, that they could show leadership and get a sense of accomplishment when they succeed. We can tone that down a little bit. Maybe you know a lady that needs some leadership as well. Well, the Empress card is also about leadership, accomplishment, and structure, but there seems to be a little bit more compassion to it. It can also, in many forms, represent Mother Nature. So that would be a wonderful thing as well. As I mentioned, the Hermit is about guidance, retreat, caution, and meditation. What if you know somebody that's going through a hard time and they need to figure out, just like I gave the example of before, you can take the Hermit card and cast it out on somebody that's needing some assistance and maybe help them see things in a different way, and thus they receive the guidance that they want. They stop and they think about it and they grow. And wouldn't that be wonderful? Um, but like I said, all these cards each have their own potential. And I think that they could help out a great deal of people and yourself. Also, I mentioned about how if you're just starting out on your path, you can take the Fool to be your patron card. Well, there are, your kings, your queens, your pages of swords, cups, wands, and pentacles. You can also take one of those cards to represent you. Maybe there is a trait that you need to develop. And so maybe the Queen of Swords is what you need to be more like. You could take the Queen of Swords card and place it on your altar with near a tea light. Do not put a tea light on your cards because you could ruin your cards. And anyway, because this card represents certain standards, certain traits, and you energize it, you should be able to make yourself a little bit better, to improve yourself. And thus, with an improved self, you can accomplish more. This is all about making the world around you a better place. And so I'm hoping that these ideas, which I believe are very probable and most people should be able to do them, but I think we should try them. So please leave your comments below. I would love to hear how everybody views this concept of becoming a tarot mage and make the world around us a better place. So everybody, please take care. Be at peace.